Hello again, Chris Bright from Artificer Made. You can visit my web store at www.etsy.com/shop/artificermade, or you can just search Artificer Made at Etsy. I'd also like you to go take a look at my blog. I just started, and that would be artificermade.blogger.com. Hoping to open up some channels and dialogue so I can put information about what I'm doing and what I've got going. Also, as soon as I get, as soon as I get some people paying attention, I'm going to start running weekly giveaways, contests, freebies, fun stuff like that. Little things all the time. So I won't pester you. You won't pester me. But you're welcome to come take a look. Any of my little stories, any of my how-tos, any of my tutorials, videos, things like that, I'm going to put up there as well. So hopefully if you're interested in this sort of thing, that might be a place you go to look for it. What I want to do now, as we get through the day, is show one technique for making your own sheet metal, sort of. A lot of people looked at an instructable I did for Instructables.com and said, I would love to make brass goggles, but I don't have an inexpensive source of sheet metal. And it's true. When you go to buy sheet metal, sometimes the craft stores will have, or the hardware stores will have a selection of sheet metal. There's one manufacturer, one brand called K&S. They're common at hobby stores, and they'll sell 4-inch by 10-inch sheets of brass and copper and things like that. They're really expensive. I think it's $10 or $12 for a 4-inch by 6-inch sheet. You can hit scrap yards, or you can hit metal supplies. This is some big. I mean, this is big. But most of the stuff I do involves a lot of small pieces being joined together in various ways. So, frustrated with my own inability to find a source for sheet metal, I decided to look at what I can find a source for. Well, everybody's got a Home Depot or something nearby, hardware store, home improvement store, and they sell copper pipe. This is 3/4 inch copper pipe. There's usually two grades. One has a thicker wall than the other. Unless you need a thick wall or a thick piece of sheet metal, the thin wall is easier to work with. And using a little bit of your high school geometry, we know that if the actual diameter of this pipe is about 1 inch, which it is, the 3/4 inch is what they call nominal. That's a naming convention. The interior dimension of this should be right about 3/4 of an inch, but it never is. So if we know that the diameter of this pipe is about 1 inch, and if we open that up, if the diameter of a circle is 1 inch, then the circumference of that circle should be, that's right, 3.14 inches and some change. I'm not going to go into it. So that means that by whatever length we have of pipe, we also have a piece of sheet metal that long, and in this case 3 inches wide. So as long as one of our dimensions that we need is less than 3 inches for a piece of sheet metal, we're fine. If you need something bigger, you can get 1 1/4. You can get 2 inch, all the way up to 2-inch copper pipe. That's big. The advantage of this is you get 10 feet of this for about $16. It's very easy to cut to shape. So we know one dimension is going to be 3 inches. Whatever we want our second dimension to be, we use a pipe cutter, which is inexpensive and easy to use. You just clamp it on, tighten it up, and spin it around. And every couple of turns around, you tighten it a little bit more until, and camera's moving, until you get a piece of pipe the length you want. So now what do we do with it? You hammer it flat? Well, that's not going to get us there. First thing, you have to anneal it. A lot of times the copper pipes will say that they're dead soft, which means that they've been annealed, or they'll say half hard. Doesn't matter. You need freshly annealed copper for this next step. That means we have to use a torch. Coming back up. Not that far. There we go. If any of you caught my earlier tutorial about the Artificer made martini, salute. If you haven't, I'll wait. Go back, check it out. Make yourself one. It helps. Always be drinking something. Doesn't have to be a martini. All right. Some people don't like martinis. Some people don't like alcoholic beverages. Those people can go fuck themselves. But no, it doesn't have to be a martini. It's not for everybody. It can be beer. I like Newcastle Brown enough to finish off a small keg of it to use it to let me use this as a quenching barrel. Whatever. But it is kind of a big deal to have something to drink so that you can not have a parched throat, especially if you're talking into a camera. So here's my piece of metal. This is my copper pipe. I've got it up on 2 fire bricks. That just helps me to refract the heat, keep the heat where I want it. If you're working on a layer of regular household bricks or a cinder block, you're okay. It's not that big of a deal. We're not at a loss for heat in this process. One major advantage of doing this is that the pipe is less likely to roll around when I hit it with this torch. So, I'll turn this back down. For those who don't know, annealing is a matter of taking the hardness out of a metal that's caused by being worked. When you work metal, it gets brittle and breaks, right? So you take a piece of wire and you bend it, and you bend it back, and you bend it, and you bend it back. Eventually, it's going to snap. That's work hardening. Annealing would allow you to bend the metal, bend it back, anneal it, bend it back, anneal it, so on and so forth, and you could pretty well keep bending that metal forever. Annealing softens the metal enough so that you can do other processes like hammering, cutting. It just makes the metal nicer to work with. It's a necessary step, and it prevents breakage. So, when we anneal copper, when we anneal most non-ferrous metals, copper alloys, silver, nickel, gold, the goal is to bring the metal up in temperature until it glows with a dull cherry red. There's a stage between dull red and cherry red. I don't know how well it'll translate onto video. It doesn't really hurt anything to get it up above that, and you don't have to have the whole piece that temperature at once. With large pieces, that can be tricky, or with inadequate fire, that can be tricky. But you just have to get every part of the metal at some time during the process up to glowing, and then you can cool it off however you like. So here we go again. Probably see it better when I pull the torch away. That's glowing a dull red right there. I'm moving the torch down so I get the whole thing. You want to put it inside so the flame doesn't obscure the view. That is a dull to cherry red. And you'll see at the end of the pipe, we're coming up, that's a good cherry red right there. And we're approaching bright cherry. This would be a nice cherry red towards the torch end, and a bright cherry at the end. But, I mean, we don't need to get wrapped up on labels. I mean, we're all pink in the middle. Okay, this metal is annealed. It's also incredibly hot. If that's not obvious, it should be. Do not touch. Yeah. Use pliers, tongs. There's probably a tool made just for this. Once it's done with the sizzle, you can touch it. Should be nice and cold. Okay. Camera's moving. See my shoes. There we are. So now you've got a pipe. It's annealed, but you want sheet metal. So what do? I'll tell you what we do. And this is so simple. People don't even believe me when I try to tell them. We cut it with a pair of scissors. Now I use these super shears. They're like heavy duty scissors you get at maybe Home Depot or a discount. I mean, these are junk. I think I got them at a dollar store. Similarly, you can use a pair of snips like this. You can use, this is real nice classic old style tinsmith shears. These are great, but not everybody has stuff like that laying around. I have lots of different scissors I use. These big, ugly, they look like kitchen shears, plastic handled scissors I get from Harbor Freight. I get a coupon, gets them free all the time. You know, buy $10 worth of stuff and use this coupon to get a free pair of scissors. They work, but this is my tried and true. Always gets me there. And like I said, put in. It's not a tremendous amount of effort that goes into this. This is not. I am not a strong human being. I do not have any sort of exceptional level of physical attribute whatsoever, and I'm ugly. So I have to be smart enough to go out and buy a nice pair of scissors like this to get something like this done. So now we have it cut right up the middle. It's like gutting a fish. Now we're going to need some pliers. That's a nice way to get started. We've been doing some spring cleaning and reorganizing, so of course that means all of my pliers are gone. I have no idea where. The pliers are just so you don't have to grab the ends. If you do a real good job cutting with scissors, you won't have any sharp points to worry about, or not many. And if you haven't built up a level of callus on your fingers, like I have, then it's probably a good idea to put some rubber gloves, or not rubber, I'm sorry, leather gloves on, if you're going to be handling the sheet metal when you're done. So there we have. That looks pretty ugly. Let's see what we can do about that. It's going to take a little bit of camera angle changing. Had not anticipated this, but that's not something I want to do on my fire brick. It's something I want to do on an anvil. Let's get some further. Alright, so much for camera angles, but you'll get the idea. I have a very cheap little anvil that I use on top of my workbench. Nothing really I can say about it except that it was cheap. I have a little ball peen hammer because I like to swing fast instead of hit hard. Normally I would have this anvil chucked down in a little vise over here, but the camera's not over there. So you see what I'm doing first is I'm kind of just going along the edges. And that's going to give me a nice flat, smooth edge, and that's, you know, half the battle right there. You flip it back over. I have, and depending on how careful you are with your cuts, a rectangle, or in my case, a rhombus of some sort. Get it done in there. But it's very flat. Nice little piece of sheet metal. This would probably be like $3 worth of sheet metal from a hobby shop. Yeah, easy as that. Parts, the supplies you can get anywhere. I mean, any place that has a Home Depot has a supply of copper pipe. 10 feet of this, I paid $16 for 10 feet, and that left me enough money over to buy some good olives.